Hey everyone, Jessie here from My Life in Arts and Crafts. So I'm posting this in a couple different places. Now, normally I do my live stuff with Facebook, but I decided to try it out with my YouTube stuff. So, bear with me because I'm not super used to using YouTube Live, so there's a good chance I might mess up. It shows that it is on my screen, but it's taking a minute to catch up. So I will try to remember to go back and edit this so that you're not stuck watching the few minutes of me playing around and just listening to my little happy tune, right? I'm just going to give it a second to make sure that it catches up, because as of right now, it's still showing my other screen. So let me try and sign in and see what it shows. Because it's still showing my starting soon screen. But on my software, okay, it's caught up. Because I'm like, in my software, it is totally showing that it is on the next part. But maybe I have to refresh it. There is a comment section. So if you have comments or questions, you can leave them in the chat. I've got the chat window open. I'm not on Facebook to see the chat stuff, so you will have to either bear with me and I'll go back and check them. So I just started making cloth pads because I'm trying to find an alternative, because I have all kinds of issues with my cycle and whatnot. So I'm not going to go into that. That's a totally different topic. But so I wanted to get away from using disposables because, one, it's expensive. If you think about how much a pack of disposable Kotex costs, it's roughly what? So about $6, $6 to $10 depending. So I did find that the cotton disposable ones you can get at like Target, those ones are actually pretty nice. But no matter what, I'm still having like some kind of reaction to them. So I was like, all right, let's try cloth and see what happens. Well, I was like, I can kind of sew if I had to, but not great. Not great at all. But I can wing it. So what I'm doing is I actually prefer software for Silhouette. So no matter which machine I'm using, I totally prefer my Silhouette software. And so what I did was I decided to upgrade to the business edition, which allows me to save my files in a format that works with other machines. So whatever I create in Silhouette, I can then save as an SVG and use it with my maker. Sorry, I gotta turn this lamp down a little bit. It's kind of bright. So the first thing I like to do is I like to put in my guides so that I can figure out the sizing that I want to. So if you want a really long pad, you might need to tell it that you're going to use your 12 by 20 format. Obviously, we're not going to cut it out with this software because I'm going to use my maker, because then I don't have to use a interfacing on the back. So when you use your maker, the maker has a rotary blade and it can cut out fabric just fine. It can cut leather, it can cut felt, it can cut toweling, it can do all kinds of stuff because it's got that little rotary blade, so it'll cut through fabric beautifully. Silhouette Cameo or Explorers, you would need to use some kind of interfacing, which there are washable interfacings and there are some that you can just peel off once you cut your fabric. But I still feel like the needle snags a little bit, so if you're going to get more into doing like a lot of fabric things of any kind, I would probably think about getting a maker. So the first thing you do, set up your mat. Second thing you're going to do is put in some guides. So I'm going to zoom in and I am going to put in a guide just at 0, and then I'm going to put another one in at about 11 so that I have kind of a space that I want to work with. I'm going to zoom out just a smidge. So my guides are blue. They're kind of hard to see. And then I can put another one at 0. And then I like my widest point to be about 5 inches. So that's going to be my widest section. And then my thinnest section is going to be in a little bit on each side. So my thinnest, to get your thinnest size, you would just measure your underwear or whatever to figure out how big you need that center part to be. So I like to bring this in about an inch. So I'm going to put that to an inch and then put this one to 4 inches, which is going to give me a center of 3 inches. And then once I wash it a couple times, it will shrink a little bit. So that's kind of my starting point. Then I start with, if I want to do a heart, you could do a heart shape. If you want to do some other kind of shape, you can just make it with basic shapes, or you could download some shapes. So I think the last one I did, I used a heart. So I'm going to go into stuff that I've downloaded. So I have machines because I do all kinds of crafting. So I have all kinds of stuff. Now, whatever shape you want it to be symmetrical from left to right so that it lines up nicely when you go to flip your pieces over to sew. So this one right here, see that little heart in there? That's super cute. That has a perfect heart in there. So I can just go ungroup, take the little heart. Now anything that has these blue marks, you're not going to be able to save as an SVG. So you have to think about that too, because you can't save somebody else's design as your own file. So you can make your own, you could draw your own, you could use a different software to draw it. You could draw it in like Photoshop or something, depending on how techy you are, right? So there's also fonts that have little glyphs that are hearts, and one of them would be I Love Glitter. This one has some glyphs. There's a cute little heart. So we could do that. You could kind of look through and see what other designs have something. So for this one, it's not quite symmetrical. So one of the ways you can get around that is, let's first take this and turn it off of a font. So I'm going to hit ungroup, and now it doesn't recognize it as a font anymore. Now it has become a shape. So let's move this guy because he's in the way right now. I'm going to use one of my guides. I can just line this up. I can rotate it a little bit so that the center on the top and the bottom tail are going to match up as best as possible. And since it wants to snap to the guide, I can use my arrow keys on my keyboard, and then I can take my knife tool and just slice straight through this. Get rid of this piece. Take this guy. Then I can go to the replicate window and I can mirror it. Oops, wrong one. That wasn't mirror. Just kidding. This one's mirror. Mirror the other way, and now I have a perfect heart. And then take this, go up here and weld. Oops. See, it's not quite overlapping, so it's not wanting to weld. So I'm just going to scooch one way and one the other way, and then hit weld. And now I've got a perfectly symmetrical heart. It doesn't matter if the bottom has a little weird spot, because we're not going to use the bottom of the heart anyway. but then I could push this up to the top. Because this is at 5, I can also put in a center guide, so I can go to 2.5 and put one there, and then I have a center guide all the way down. I can then mirror this to the bottom, take this and push this all the way down here. So I've got top and bottom. I can do just a rectangle for the center. So just put it somewhere in there, and then click on this guy and bring it down into that shape. So there's kind of like the very basic shape, right? I could then also take a rectangle. So say I wanted this to be much wider. So let's move these guys out of the way. If I wanted this to be a lot wider, which I do, I'm going to take it to the full size. Actually, I'm going to get a different one so that way I can snap it. So click on my rectangle, and then I can click somewhere up here and it's going to snap. And it's going to snap to every one of my guides. Click on the bottom where I want it to be. Then I can take a circle. Kind of like, yay. Excuse me. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to take it to the center. So this is at 11. I'm going to put another guide in here at 5.5. I'm going to let this snap to the center, and then I can bring this in like that. Can do copy paste, keyboard shortcuts. Move my hearts out of the way again. Then I can bring this over here. I'm going to bring it into that center one and let it snap to the middle. Now I can take this and I can go to my modify window right here and hit subtract. Same on this one, and then subtract. Okay. I can slide this one down a little bit. Can bring this heart up here. Now I want this to kind of round out again up here. I could just do that while sewing and just kind of fix that up a little bit. Or I can take my knife tool. Excuse me. I think I'm getting sick again. Or a circle. Can draw in a perfect circle. And then just kind of slice that off right there, just like I did for the other part. So this piece would be your liner, however you want to build your top part. If you want to do kind of a fun edge, I've seen some where there's kind of like a decorative type thing going on. So here is this guy. So this is the draw a polygon tool. And you can do all kinds of stuff with this tool. So you can make any kind of shape from 3-sided all the way up to, I think it's 60-sided, which is actually just going to be a circle. But you could then put this at the top if you wanted to do one of those more like decorative edges, whatever makes you happy. And if you have a pattern that you've been using, you can import it if it's in a PDF. You just go File, Open, and then open the PDF. Or there's a way to import it, but I don't use import very often. But there's a way to do import. But so anyway, once you get your shape figured out, right? You've got your inner piece that you really like the way it's shaped. You would move that off the mat and then start drawing your backer. So I think for this one, we'll use this guy because I gotta make a couple tonight. Bring that back to the center. Let's do more basic tonight just to make it easier. So we'll do a circle. Okay, so there's my circle. Can bring that up here. I'm going to go a smidge above right? So I'm going to draw in a guide so that I can make it perfect from top to bottom. So I'm going to put this guide at 0.5 above, and then we'll do the same thing with this one. Just move that window right in the way. At 0.5, so 11.5. And centered. Okay, so I just need to round this out to match it up with this circle. Or I can just make my circle a little bigger if I wanted to. Something like that. So what was this? This is the width is 5. So I can go in here, lock this guy down, change this to 5. The other one's going to go to 5. And if you want to, you can always download the basic edition of Silhouette Studio. It's totally free. You can use it to then print off your design and then hand cut it out if that's something you wanted to do. So I want this to be my top, but I need to get rid of this area in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this out of the way first. I want to do it that way. Yeah. And then I'm going to get rid of that guy for a moment. I'm going to get my knife tool and I'm going to go from right here at the widest point, hold down shift and slice over. And then I'm going to get rid of the bottom half. And then I'm going to bring this guy back in, locking it to the center. I can grab, see if I go like that, see how it moves that curved part down? I don't want to do that. So I want to keep in mind about where this at, so we can just put a guide in here. Let's just put a guide right there. Okay, so then we can go slice. Knives are gonna lock to guidelines. So there's that one. Okay. And then what I can do here is I can just rotate this. That's replicate. I'm on the wrong window. Silly me. Wrong window. Can rotate this 180 degrees. Huh. That didn't go where I wanted it to go. Where's this line at? So it's 1.937. So sometimes when you do patterns and stuff, you got to do a little bit of math, especially if you're going to put your guides in. So I need to go, excuse me, 11 minus 1, nope, 1.937 is going to be 9.063. So we're going to move this to 9.062. That's pretty close. And use the knife tool and slice that off. And then I've got this that I can bring in. So this should still have a center now. And there's just a little tiny piece right there that's kind of sticking out. So see that little tiny piece? I don't want that there. So I am going to take my knife tool, hold down shift so I get a 45-degree angle, and slice off the corner. Make sure nothing else is in the way. Do the same thing, hold down shift, slice off the corner. If you don't have enough, you can go a little lower and slice off the corner. And then select through all of it so that I don't miss any piece. Hold down shift and then click on the big part so that it goes away. And then we'll zoom back out. Bring this back in. I still have a little bit sticking out. I don't like that. Go a little lower. A little lower. Select over all of it, hold down shift. Bring this back in. That's better. Okay. So then we can do replicate, mirror below. Nope, that's above. Mirror below. Zoom out. Bring this down here. We're going to have to do that same thing where we cut off the corners. Hold down shift. That was not long enough. I don't think that one was either. Select through it all, hold down shift, delete those corners. Put that in place. See, like that one, I got a little too carried away. So for that one, we're just going to draw a little tiny square, little tiny rectangle, rotate it, and just stick that in there so that you can't really see it. Okay, so now I've got this basic shape done, right? So that's kind of my insert. And then I just select over everything, right click and weld, or go up here and hit weld. But then I have a liner. Okay, so there's my liner part done. And it's measuring 11 inches by 5 inches. So the widest point is 5 inches and the length is 11. So when I sew it, it's going to be a little bit smaller than that. So now I need to do the base. However, I'm going to have like a backer or attach it. So there's different ways that you can do this too. You can have triangle wings, you could have rounded wings. You just want to make sure you have enough length on your wings in order to get all the way around. So easy way to do wings are either to do like use a circle and draw like an ellipse, or do triangles. I did triangles and they work just fine. They're probably not the prettiest, but they work just fine until I get a little bit more advanced. But circles work really well too, because you can draw on an ellipse. Just sandwich it in there basically. So for this, we want to make sure it's centered. And you also want to copy and paste it, because you want to put one over here off to the side. So we'll get rid of these guys because we didn't use those for this one. If you wanted to do a little rounded square kind of wing, you could do that too. A little rounded rectangle. Rounded rectangles, you can kind of customize the corners a little bit. So those might be something that you find interesting to use as well. So because this is what did I say? This part is 3 inches. Excuse me, this part's 3 inches. You need 3 inches plus 3 inches. So you need at least 6 inches just to get around and touch. So you want about 7 inches to 8 inches in order to have enough with your wings and backer and whatnot. So this is 5 inches long. We'll change this to, go to transform. Gonna leave this unlocked. I'm gonna make that 5. Make this probably 2.75, just so that I have nice numbers. Go center, just copy paste, and centered. And then we also want an offset of this. Hold on. Excuse me, I got coughing like crazy. You want an offset of your original shape, because your original shape, you need to have something slightly bigger so that you don't see your inner part. So for that, you're going to want to go to offset, offset. For this, I would go more than the default. The default is 0.125, which is, it gives you about a 1/4 inch bigger when all is said and done. I would probably go up to about 0.4, which is going to give you at least a 1/2 inch of space when you stitch it. So then you can just pick if you want more corners or if you want it more rounded. For this, I would probably do more rounded because it just looks a little bit nicer, and then hit apply. Okay, so there is that part. And then you're going to want to weld this all together. So now we can slide this out of the way. And I always say make a copy of it just in case something happens and it gets messed up and you weld it to the wrong piece. That way you don't have to undo everything in order to get it back. So I've got my wings. I've got enough space to get all the way around. I've got a little bit of curved in the middle so that it gives it a little nicer design, not so plain, and it also gives you a place where you're going to have a thinner spot in the middle. So now we've got wing. So I'm tired. It's late. It's like 8 o'clock. That's bedtime. Now we're going to weld. So up here to weld, or right click and hit weld. So now that I have that done, zoom out. So I've got my shape for my pad. I've got my liner for my pad. So depending, I can delete this now, depending on how much you want to put into your pad for how absorbent you want it to be, what I've been doing is doing 2 layers of back. I did do some with some pool material and I didn't really like it. I don't like the way that it feels. I like them with just some thin cotton, and then doing some flannel pieces and then a little bit of toweling in them, and they work great. So I'm gonna save this as this and this as my SVG. So we'll go to File, Save As, Save to Hard Drive, save it as an SVG. We'll do pad simple, rounded, shape. Okay, and then just save that to my Cameo files. So that's saved as an SVG. Now I can go to Firefox. So this is where I switch it over to the other machine. Now, like I said, you don't have to switch it to another machine. You could cut it out with backing on your silhouette. I've been using my Maker to do all my fabric stuff because it's my newest machine. 2, it cuts out so good. It cuts out everything so good. I can't even believe how great it cuts. But I like the designing in silhouette, which is why I upgraded to business so that I can save it as an SVG. So let it load. New project. It's already signed into me. We're going to go to upload, upload image, browse. It's got to think. Come on. We're going to go to desktop. And I am going to go to my Cameo files and just grab the file. And there's my design. It comes in with the same name. I can hit save. And then I can click on it and hit insert. You can see I do all kinds of projects. I have all kinds of weird things saved. So, if you're going to cut this out with just flannel, you can leave them the same color and leave them fine. But see here, look, the size changed. So I need to remember what the size is. So the size, when these two are together, the total height needs to be 11.799. So now I can go back here, keep these two are together, change my height to 11.799 and save. There you go. Now, these two are grouped together, so I can ungroup them, right? I can change the color, which doesn't really mean anything other than it's going to cut it out on a different mat. My recommendation is that even? Why does that look so uneven? I think it's just my eyeballs. It's like, why does this look really uneven? 1, 2. No, it's even. Okay. What was I saying? Oh, the color doesn't mean anything other than it's going to cut it on a different mat. If it makes it easier for you to see, go for it, change it. If not, then I wouldn't worry about it too much. I want to cut the blue piece out of cotton, so just either like a fat quarter or you can get like a half a yard of cotton. I have a ton of cotton material because I was going to make skirts and never really learned to sew. But hey, my first sewing project happens to be menstrual pads, so go me, right? So, get it? So, here's my base. Here's my liner. I can then hit make it. It's not going to register because my machine is not plugged in. Now, see, this one is telling me that I have to use a 12 by 24 mat. So I've got to use a bigger mat because it is almost 12 inches long when it cuts off the little bit of the spacing. So I will need 2 mats, and I will need a mat that is 12 by 24, which I did pick up, so I'm okay. But the other thing too is that you need to remember that you're going to need to, I can hit okay, double this. So tell it you want 2 project copies. Okay, so here's one, here's the other. If you're using pull, you will need to mirror one of these because you'll need it to cut the opposite way, which I forgot about when I cut one out the other day. So if you're using pull or you're using a fabric that has a right side and a wrong side, like something with a pattern, you can either just put your material on upside down on your mat, or you can mirror it by hitting this little button here. Hopefully that makes sense. This one, it doesn't really matter because you're cutting them out the same, and you're just going to layer them up and then put your material in it and then stitch it. So that doesn't matter because the one side can be kind of weird. The purple one, I would cut out of flannel. The blue one, I'm going to cut out of cotton. So I'm going to get this one cut out and sewn so that I can throw it in the wash and have it for tomorrow. But I will put a picture of it when it's finished because I'm going to get off here and go get it done. And I have it set to screenshot, not do my work surface. So I'm going to get this, like I said, I'm going to get this cut out, stitched up, and done. And then I will go back through this and I'll add some pictures over on my fan page, possibly on my blog if I remember to upload on my blog because I'm horrible about that. But my fan page, I'll have it in the description of this video. And if you popped in here from a Facebook group, thanks for coming. Thanks for hanging out with me. I am hoping to do more stuff with my YouTube channel because they changed some rules around and it's weird now. So I gotta get better about posting over here. But any of my live videos that are over on Facebook, I'm going to be in the process of converting over here. Normally, I don't do sewing. I do card making and some makeup videos every once in a while. So hang out with me and see some of the stuff that I like doing. And I will see you guys again soon. Thanks for watching.